Hey guys, good afternoon. For those of you who don't know, my name is Ben, and I mean, you should know me if you're a friend on my Facebook. But no, I'm Ben. I'm a mental health nurse. I'm a father. I'm a fiance, a friend, brother, many things to many people, but ultimately, I'm just simply me, Ben, a human being. And so today, I thought, because it is that time of year and it's something that I see in my practice, and I think a lot of other people's practices as well, particularly in mental health, this time of year, Christmas, it can be for many people a time of year to celebrate, to reflect, and look back, and to really enjoy, the treats and the opportunity to spend time with people we love, which is fantastic. But it is one of those times of year that can be quite a challenge for some people. And I think I just wanted to highlight, three things that really we see. I mean, there are many factors, but I just thought these three would be more important. And again, the reason for this video is just to kind of, maybe tap into yourself, or maybe there's someone maybe there's, it's a case of sharing this, or maybe it's a case of just bringing some awareness as to why sometimes people may find the Christmas period a little difficult and not as enjoyable as ourselves. I mean, I'm certainly very blessed and looking forward to it. Great time with family, with friends. It's all to work for. And my son, he's 2, and so it's a real time that he's going to be a lot more aware of it, and a lot more excited by the festivities, and really for him, it's his foundations of his understanding of Christmas, which going forward as he grows up, I like to think that one that he'll connect back to these fond memories of that time. But anyway, without further ado, I'd like to kind of focus on the 3 things, and the first one is loneliness. And I think it's quite obvious that we are in the society we live in, particularly in the UK, we are a bit of a disconnected society. In some respects, I think, compared to other cultures, compared to other parts of the world, I think what we tend to find, and it's quite obvious really, as humans, we are social creatures. We are, we need social interaction, regardless of what we may think and feel. A lot of well-being does come from connecting to those, and it's not just connecting with anyone, it's connecting with people that we feel accepted by. There's a bit of unconditional love, that we trust and feel safe. And quite frankly, unfortunately, people, due to life circumstances, maybe it's their age, maybe it's their lifestyle, maybe there are many other factors that have pushed them into a side of isolation. And I think these things unfortunately do happen, and being lonely, especially at the time of Christmas, it can be incredibly hard. The prospect of being lonely and the prospect of people not being there. And I think loneliness in itself, as well as being disconnected, it's for some people, in that isolation, the mind wanders. It has a tendency at times to create this illusion that, do people care about me? Am I worthy? Am I even a desirable human being? It's really where we can, that the mind has a potential to manifest depressive thoughts. And so I think, it's quite obvious really, and there's so many factors that feed into loneliness and the effects of it, and I think it's quite obvious. But I think the one thing I always say is are you that lonely person? Are there, and are there people out there that, you generally have connections with, and really, because the reason I say this is over time, particularly on Facebook, I have many friends, and a lot of people I haven't spoken to in years. You might be watching this now, we may have worked together at one point, but the reality is our friendship never changed. The only thing that has created distance is time, and just the fact that we haven't come back together. I'd like to think with a lot of friendships that, if we bumped into each other, like, hey, let's grab a coffee, let's catch up, and we just pick up from where we left off. Just because the time has drifted us apart doesn't mean our feelings have. Doesn't mean the respect and those fond memories have. And I think coming back to it, if you're in that position of loneliness, and you can reach out, don't be afraid to maybe ask, to get in contact, to talk to someone, just have a bit of human connection, take your mind away from your thoughts, whatever it is that you need in particularly. Sometimes just a bit of interaction, whether it's on the build up, on the day, or, afterwards, consider that in mind, in plan. Maybe do consider asking yourself, what are some of the barriers that are stopping me from reaching out to other people? What are some of my concerns? What am I fearing? Is there a bit of potential rejection? Is there a bit of, is there a bit of upset? Maybe the person you're thinking of talking to last time you spoke, it didn't go as well as you'd like it to. And that will link into my next point. But ultimately, for you, ask yourself, and if you identify those barriers, ask yourself, how can you overcome them? And, again, and the reason I said it is everyone's got their own individual story, and again, it's not to push, it's not to shove, but it's really just provoking thought and asking questions. How can I bring a solution to the problem I'm currently in, or the issue I'm currently in? Again, there might be factors that are out of your control, and that's okay. That's not an issue, but maybe focus on the factors you can control, just to kind of get that bit of connection. And I think just saying to the wider, community, like, what can we do? Like, for me personally, it's about putting this message out there. Say, if you're lonely around Christmas or lonely Christmas Day, let's have a chat. Drop me a message. Let's have a quick chat. Let's catch up. Maybe it's a quick chat. Maybe it's half an hour. Who knows? I mean, again, it's being available, because I think the best gift any human can give is their time and presence. And again, it's not me saying that you must go and find lonely people and make them happy and all that thing. No, far from it. It's where you can, within reason, take into consideration your needs and those around you as well. I can't just ditch my whole day and say, sorry family, sorry son, sorry Kirsty, I've got some lonely people. I can't, and that's just me being realistic. I'd love to, but ultimately that comes first. But where there are gaps within the day, it's me saying, you know what, let's have a chat, let's link up, let's go pop over to someone's house, let's have a cup of tea, whatever. It's just, again, and the whole thing is, again, it's not coming from an angle of you must do this and we must do that. Like, ultimately, when it boils down to it, is that there's that degree of acceptance that this is the way the world is, and this is the way our society is, and hey, we can't change it just like that. We can't do it. But it's about kind of identifying, just saying, hey, what can I do? What can I do? What could I do? Potentially, what could happen? And just take it from there, really. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps with the loneliness. And I think it brings me to my second one, which is talking about, the last interaction you had, family. I'm so blessed to have a really loving, caring family, both from my family down south, but also up at north through my fiancée Kirsty. We are all one big family, and incredibly blessed to have a beautiful dynamic. There's grandparents, the kids, and then obviously the grandkids. It's just, and the great grandkids as well. It's just, it's such a fantastic family to be a part of. And that's not me, boasting or anything like that. It's just identifying what I'm grateful for, really. And I think for a lot of people, Christmas can have that stress, because there's that tendency to be expected, potentially, or to be able to mix with people, having to mix with people that maybe your dynamic isn't as good. Maybe there is history, maybe there's been an argument that day, maybe last week, or maybe a month ago, maybe last year, maybe 10 years ago, things that we're still just holding on to a little bit. And I get it, it's easy for me to sit here and say, let go. Anyone can say that, but the reality is that for some people is a process that needs to take time, and it's understanding, I guess, in the meantime, if that's something we can't do, what can we do to make that day a little bit more bearable? Can we at least kind of, be mindful of how much time we spend with people if we don't get on them? Can we be mindful to kind of avoid conversations that provoke a certain type of conversation, that provoke a type of vibe? Can we maybe, before going into it, have a conversation and say, look, this is what we're going to do? Or can we just say, look, we're going to do a couple of hours here? It's about kind of like, the reason I'm saying this really ultimately is that sometimes, we do come together as a family, and sometimes that can be uncomfortable because of reasons I've just said. But ultimately, it's kind of, having damage control, essentially what we call it. How can we reduce the impact? How can we reduce the negative vibes? How can we reduce any tension? How can we reduce any arguments? How can we just essentially just keep our head down and get through this? And, asking those questions, like maybe bringing a bit of fun to it, maybe bringing a bit of zest, maybe a bit of a distraction, maybe just kind of, avoiding falling into the same arguments and patterns of routines, And again, asking the question, actually going forward in the year, what does our relationship say about us? What does it say about me? Because I'm part of that relationship too. Is there something that we could work on potentially? And again, maybe the answer to all my questions is a flat out never. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. It's not a problem. But be open to asking yourself that question. Actually ask yourself, is this the way things should be? Or is this the way, could things be a bit better? What could we work on? Again, it's really just kind of bringing ideas to the consciousness and asking those questions. Because, a coach I once worked with used to say, questions are steering wheels of the mind. They take our focus and put it in, onto solutions, or asking questions. Could this be a bit different? Could this be a little bit better? And again, it's really important just to acknowledge that all I'm suggesting more than anything is just bringing your attention to the situation and saying, what can we do? What can we do? And that's all. If you can't do anything, then that's fine. But actually, that could provoke a thought. Actually, I could make this a bit more bearable. Actually, we could make this day a tad more enjoyable. Actually, we could have a bit of a laugh or a bit of fun. Actually, we could have a bit of connectivity, etc. And so, yeah, I hope that kind of helps with the family side of things. Because again, it can be really enjoyable, but it can be hell totally get it, especially when there's alcohol, food, you know, if you've got dramas that are still ongoing or beef between people, you know, of course there's always going to be that, you know, provocation. You know, it's like a bit of a deadly trio. You know, you've got a bit of drama, you've got a bit of alcohol. I mean, I don't know what the bottom of is, maybe, I don't know, a bit of boredom or something like that, or maybe another factor, but you put the three of them together and we've got ourselves, you know, a bit of drama, unfortunately. And again, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're any better or worse. It just shows that actually maybe there's a bit of healing that needs to be done. That's all. But honestly, like, I think that's really important to acknowledge, that if you do have that family, not to kind of really look and say so many families are better than mine, or even the other way around, my families are better than other people. The reality is a family that gets on and a family that doesn't. The difference is the relationships. That's all it is. It doesn't make it better or worse. It's just a reflection of how people are with themselves and how they are with others and how they work together. That's all, and how they've maybe processed pain and how maybe they've, you know, worked through things together. Really, it's not a case of being better or worse. It's just a case of looking at the issues and going, well, this is my family, and actually maybe we're great, maybe we're spot on, but actually at the same time, maybe there are a few things, maybe a couple of little things, etc. You know, does it make you better or worse? Absolutely not. It's just an observation. The final thing, and if you're still with me, by the way, I've gone on, 11 minutes. The final thing, which I'd like to really say, is about mental health itself. How we are on a day. There is this idea, and don't get me wrong, Christmas for many people is exciting. The food, the flavours, the memories, the Christmas trees, the coming together, you know, 2 days of, you know, some people, a few days of no work, you know, letting our hair down, really relaxing, just unwinding and wrapping the year up. For some people, that's great. It's a well-needed break. But you know what, for some people, could be going through a grievance, could be reliving trauma, could be, you know, because Christmas is not always great for people, unfortunately. Some people have been unfortunate, you know, with life hand, and, you know, Christmas has a way of evoking such unhelpful memories and such, you know, disturbing feelings as well. But also as well, people, you know, generally could have a long and enduring mental health condition, mental health, you know, diagnosis, and mental health, you know, they're struggling, you know, for example, like with depression. But the reality is if a cure for depression was, let's get a Christmas tree, let's put some nice food on the table, let's have some alcohol in that, you know, we wouldn't have these mental health problems, essentially, because that could be cured just like that. And the reason I say that is, it's not that person is, you know, being ungrateful, far from it. They have a mental health condition, and, you know, my understanding of it is that it's a reflection of the humans whose needs are not met to their entirety. And yes, little things like Christmas and the things that come with it, sure, they can meet some needs, but ultimately deep down, those needs go far greater than what's on the surface here. And sometimes someone who's in that headspace, you know, hasn't got their needs met, and I don't think they can be fairly blamed, if I'm honest, because that's what happens to humans. If their needs aren't met deep down, whether it's superficial, deep down within them or in their head, then that's how humans manifest, that's how they present. And you know what, I think it's first of all really important just to acknowledge, but also not to judge, but also as that individual who's living it, acknowledge that this is going on, and, you know, try to bring a little bit of compassion to the play, because there's this idea that it's Christmas, I should be happy, look at everyone else is happy around me, why am I not happy, something's wrong with me, you know, all of these kind of negative assumptions. No, you're just a human whose needs aren't met, when it really boils down to it, and that's okay. That is okay. You don't have to be a certain way on Christmas Day, you don't have to be a certain way on the build up or after it. You don't have to be, there is no expectation of you. You know, ultimately, it's so important to acknowledge that on that day, it might be it might be very overwhelming socially. I mean, I remember many Christmases, if people know me well, I've not always been this headstrong. I've really had difficulties with mental health in the past, and some Christmases I found incredibly overwhelming, just the amount of social interaction. It was just very stressful for me, but thankfully now I can tolerate it so much more. But again, you can acknowledge how some Christmas events being social, that it does, you know, if you're socially anxious, maybe if your energy's not quite there, you know, it's situations that can be incredibly uncomfortable, and you know what, that's okay. And what I'd say to that is to always, you know, look at your needs. What do you need that day? If you find social interaction a little bit too much, what can you do to make the day more tolerable? Do you need a period of time where you can go and have some time out, sit down, maybe watch a movie, maybe kind of quiet place to read a book, or just maybe if you're feeling sad, you know, could you spend some time maybe with a loved one you want? Maybe again, if there's something that's, you know, bothering you, or if there are any issues, again, what can you do to kind of, bring, and again, it's not a case of cheer up, it's a really fine balance. And again, it leads to my next point. It's so important to acknowledge that, we might have these concerns, we might have these issues, and we might have these, mental health, difficulties, but ask yourselves, again, coming back to my first point, what can we do just to make this a little bit bearable? What can we do just to make this comfortable? But ultimately, what I'd say is, most importantly, is that it is okay to be sad on Christmas Day if you are. It really is. And the reason I say that is because when we tell ourselves we must be happy, we must be this, we must be that, we force ourselves, we don't acknowledge and validate our feelings and emotions, and actually that has a tendency to make us feel even worse, but we feel so bad about it, and we feel like, what's wrong with me? There's potential ground to invite shame and guilt about why am I not feeling happy? No, acknowledge and just be accepting and gentle with yourself. Yeah, if you're feeling that way, there is a reason, and that might not be obvious to yourself at this moment in time, or the people around you. You know what? That's okay. That is okay. It's one of those things, but it doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. But on that day, asking that really, 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 really important question: what can I do to make this better? What can I do? Is it a simple case I just need to acknowledge? Is it a case I just need to be gentle with myself and accepting? Because remember, I think the first thing as well, and again, I know this kind of may contradict what I've said, but social environments, they can be overwhelming. But for someone who is depressed, someone who is flat, someone who is going through a bit of a tough time, through grievance, being around people, the person living it, and you might think this, if you're in it, might think, I don't want to be around people, I'm just going to bring them down, I'm just going to be really negative, I'm not going to be no fun. No, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I think that kind of shows that you're not, it shows your compassion towards like other people, if that makes sense. You want them to have a good time and potentially not be affected by your, your energy, etc. But the reality is that if you are spending time with people who love you unconditionally, they will accept you, whether you're the saddest of the saddest, your hair's in a mess, got bird poo on you, whatever like that, and they will accept you equally as you on cloud nine. Why I say that is because it's to kind of step out of that illusion that I am worthless when I feel low, I am no value to people when I feel low, I cannot be around people, and that's not true. Yeah, some people might say and act like that, but the people who love and care about you deep down, they will accept you no matter what. And it is so important to surround ourselves and people to feel comfortable with not feeling yourself, to feel comfortable, because ultimately as well, they want to see you regardless. But most importantly, because when you're going through that period of when you're feeling low and sad, the best thing you can do is be around people. The worst thing you can do is cut off from people. And again, I know this has been a heavy 18 minutes we're coming up to now, but this, for me, it's a combination of what I've been exposed to working with patients. It's a combination of my own personal experience. It's a combination of researching and listening to other nurses and other professionals who work in mental health as well, and just reading around the edges, and most importantly, observing. I hope that's okay. So regardless of what's going on this year, go back to a few of these points in the video. If there's any other issues actually you want to disagree with, you think actually, Ben, you're talking a load of crap, please feel free to put a comment in below. You know what? Or if anything, please disagree with me and then bring your opinion or what you think is the right thing. So that, because if I'm wrong, then people need to be made right and made aware. And so by doing so, please put your comments below. Please put something in that says that actually is more helpful. Or if anything, listen to what I've said, and if you agree with it, maybe add some more things on. Get a conversation going, like little things. How can we navigate this time of year? How can we make it just a little bit more bearable? Really, really bring that to play. The more, the merrier. The more ideas is brilliant. And again, if you know someone, if this is related to you or a family member or anybody, please give a share. Please tell them about this video. And realistically, it's not about bigging up my platform. It's about getting a message out there that I think people potentially could benefit from hearing. Who knows? Anyway, guys, I need to go and get my lunch. I am starving and my mouth is just dry as the desert. So I'm going to leave it there. But if you need anything, where my message is. I'm only a message away. Let's get talking, guys. Have a good and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Mwah.